Jamal's revenge. The boss dropped his phone the day everything exploded. Not because money disappeared. Not because someone told secrets to newspapers. Not even because the big deal failed. He dropped it because someone finally understood the most scary person in the company had been sitting really close the whole time, writing things down, saving papers. That someone was me. My name is Jamal, and for 5 years I was the person who checked all the rules at a growing computer company in Chicago. Nobody ever called me important out loud. Around the building I was rules guy, or when they were being nice, the helper. You know, that person who helps but gets no thanks. That was me. I made sure we followed government rules that gave us half our money. I fixed people problems that could have made us lose everything. I kept government inspectors happy by knowing where every paper and name needed to go. But when it was time for celebration parties or fancy presentations, people acted like I cleaned bathrooms. They pushed me to the back every single time. Jamal loves checking things, the money boss once said, smiling like he was being nice. He enjoys the boring stuff, lives in the tiny details. Funny thing is, I created those details. I worked really hard for those rules. I knew exactly what happened when someone tried to skip them. You know what else I knew? That most people watch these stories without ever hitting subscribe. Crazy, right? I mean, if you're still here and your brain even cares a little bit, smash that like button. Maybe even subscribe. It really helps my team stay awake enough to catch mistakes and bad people before they hurt someone's life. Back to my story. At first, I thought they didn't mean to be mean. We were a small team growing super fast. My job was to slow things down while everyone else went really fast. But slowly being the helper became an excuse to keep me away from the important meetings, especially the buying another company meetings. Oh, they mentioned it sometimes. Some big growing thing. Working together better. You know, the usual fancy words designed to make people like me nod quietly while being pushed aside. But I started seeing weird things. Papers being shared that I never saw. Boss meetings scheduled when I had government phone calls. People stopping talking when I walked into rooms. I told myself I was being silly. I even joked with the money boss, Marcus, who I should mention had once been more than just a work friend. Close your eyes twice if you're planning something sneaky, I said over late dinner. He laughed big. Said I was too important to lose. Said I was the one thing he wouldn't cheat on. But then I saw the first warning sign. An email with a file I was supposed to check but didn't. Clicked it. It was a practice version of the buying plan, made simpler, cleaned up. No notes, no tracking who changed what, and my name wasn't there, not even in the tiny writing. Instead, I saw blank words waiting for Jamal's name. I sat there, staring at my screen like it had just hit me in the face. They sent it without asking me. Not the final one, maybe. Not yet, but things were moving. And I wasn't just left out, I was completely removed. Still, I waited, gave them chances to include me. Maybe someone made a mistake. Maybe some new worker clicked send too early. But days went by, then a whole week, and Marcus, the same Marcus who once told me, "You're the wall between us and government trouble." He stopped visiting my desk, stopped answering messages quickly. Started working really late. They'd made a choice. They were guessing I'd stay quiet. They forgot what my job was. Started with my schedule. Weekly rule meeting gone, replaced by something called big picture planning table. No invitation, no reason why. I messaged Marcus. "Hey, did our Tuesday meeting move?" 3 dots appeared, then nothing. Next day, I walk into the office early, hoping to start my week's work. I find lawyers huddled around the glass meeting room. Lights turned off, computer glowing. Pictures flashing, words like shared ownership and agreement matching. I look closer. One picture says after buying company, who's in charge flow. My part missing, erased like I was some temporary worker they forgot existed. I knock on the door. No one opens it. No one even looks at me. I walk back to my desk, sit down, breathe slowly. This isn't the first time they've done something without me. Last time they tried that risk acceptance trick on the government application. We almost lost $6.5 million. I came crawling back, then begging for help. Maybe that's what this was. Early confusion. Big egos, miscommunication. But the silence keeps going. One day becomes two. Then the daily reports stop coming to my email. Money drafts no longer ask for rule-checking approval. People department stops including me in worker checks. And Marcus suddenly always on phone calls every time I walk by. When I catch him in the hallway and say, "We need to talk about that rule in the buying agreement," he blinks like I've spoken a different language. "Which rule?" he says, fixing his jacket. "I thought lawyers handled it." "You mean the rule naming the rule-checking officer? That one." I don't smile when I say it. He gives that half-smile people use when they're pretending something isn't broken. "Jamal, listen. You're really smart. Sometimes you ask too many questions. This is a big vision thing." I want to yell. Instead I nod so I'm not big vision. "Look, the money people want easy. You ask questions that make things harder. That's not a bad thing, but it's not helpful." I finish his sentence. He shrugs, and for the first time I notice how relaxed he looks standing there. Arms crossed, lips tight like he's finished practicing. "Just work stuff, you understand that?" "Oh, I understand work. I've read every rule they've hidden, every secret agreement they've broken, every shortcut they've tried to make normal." That night, printed papers land on my desk, held together with a clip fresh from the copier. A practice copy of the full buying agreement. No message, no cover. Paper, just the words "practice for checking" written in someone else's handwriting across the top. I flip to the Who's in Charge part, page 72. And there it is. Rule officer to be decided, my name gone, my job title gone, my initials erased like a spelling mistake. I grab a red pen, circle the empty space, write in big letters, Director of Rules, Jamal Thompson, currently working, not asked. I copy the papers, mark the missing approval path, highlight every part that would need my legal permission, stack it neatly. I email it to lawyers, copy the money boss, copy Marcus. Then I wait and nothing comes back. That's when it really hits me. Not just that they're trying to work around me, but that they already have. I'm not being included. I'm being replaced quietly on purpose, and the worst part, they think I won't notice. They think I'll give up like some polite rule checker who prefers safety over warning signs. They forgot that easy is fake, and I'm the one who knows where the real problems are hidden. The worst kind of betrayal isn't loud. It's quiet, planned, and dressed up as improvement. Come in early again. My badge still works, though I notice the security desk doesn't light up green like before. Just a quiet yellow blink. A warning like the building knows what's coming before I do. I make coffee in the kitchen. It tastes wrong, bitter, like someone washed the pot but left behind the taste of burned trust. I sit in my chair, open my computer, and stare at my screen for a full 60 seconds before doing anything, 'cause I know what I'm about to do might change everything forever. They forgot to take away my access. The secret buying deal folder was supposed to be locked once step 2 started. That was the plan in the project notes. But someone in computers either got lazy or thought I'd already been pushed into the shadows. So I click and it opens main folder Project Phoenix. Inside 9 smaller folders, practice versions, legal term papers, checking packets, government review. My heart slows as I look at each one. Not racing, slowing, like my body's getting ready for a car crash happening slowly. I open the final papers folder. Time stamps don't match inside records. Several files have copy names with endings like actual final and final version 3. I open the main agreement, 122 pages long. It loads slowly like the computer itself is nervous. Page 2, approvals. There's a stamp at the bottom. Signed Jamal Thompson in slanted computer letters. Not a real signature. Not my signature. Just typed words like someone thought writing my name in bold made it legal. I scroll down. Page 15. Rule officer compliance sign-off done. No date, no computer proof, no real attachment. I check the file details. Last changed by Money Boss. Course they didn't just skip me, they faked me. Only problem is they're bad at it. Messy, lazy, maybe even scared because the real digital signature spot still sits empty, waiting for a real one. My actual computer key, the one stored on the secure device I carry on my keyring, is the only one allowed for government binding. And it's missing. Page 73, Rule 12B. All buying-related disclosures, compliance duties, conflict paperwork must be checked and signed by the rule-checking officer before turning in. Underneath that, a signature line, blank, staring up at me like an open cut. I lean back in my chair. The office around me is waking up. Keyboards clicking, coffee machine hissing, someone heating eggs like it's not terrible. But I can't hear any of it. Just the quiet roar of proof in my head. Turned in without me. Worse, they knew they needed me. Rule 12B wasn't decoration. It was government law. My signature wasn't just politeness. It was the legal pin holding the entire buying deal above water. Without it, it's cancelled. Maybe cancelled at best. Investigated at worst. I don't panic. I don't get angry. I don't print copies and march into the boss's office, waving papers like some mad TV assistant. Instead, I do what I've always done. Write it down. I save the practice version to a locked drive. Take pictures of the fake signatures, the computer trail, the folder setup. I compare timestamp versions from 3 weeks ago with the newest one. I download the change record. Then I pull out the key device from my bag, the one with the computer code still attached, still mine. I hold it between my thumb and pointer finger, staring at it like it's the last clean thing in a dirty room. They forgot one thing. You can cut someone out of meetings, remove their name from papers, and ignore their emails. But if that person still holds the only key to being legal, you've built your castle on a ghost. And that ghost just woke up. The big everyone meeting had food, of course. Hot breakfast wraps from that trendy mixed food place downtown, pictures of fancy cucumber water, little branded folders at every seat like we were about to save the world instead of rubber stamp a company trick. I took my usual spot near the back. No one asked me to move up front. No thanks for making the buying legal, Jamal. Just smiles that looked fake and nervous looks like I was already a ghost. The boss, Richard, walked up like he just won a popularity award. Clapped his hands and said, "Let's cheer for Marcus and the lawyer team. True heroes in getting this buying deal to the finish line." Clapping erupted. I clapped too, slow, polite, measured, like someone sitting at their own funeral just to hear what the speaker gets wrong. Not one word about rule checking. Not one word about Rule 12B. Not one word about the man who'd risked his work license to handle 5 years of government money, conflict papers, inside investigations without a single bad mark. Just Marcus beaming like a proud parent, shaking hands like he wasn't sitting on a crime-level paperwork mistake. Then came the new organization chart. Richard flipped to a picture labeled after buying integration team. 10 bubbles. Operations, legal, tech, money, and a little gray box tucked in the corner. Old compliance to be reviewed. No name, just gray, just shadow. I didn't move. Not when lawyers avoided looking at me. Not when people department leader looked at me and immediately looked away. Not when Marcus locked eyes with me for a second too long, then mouthed something I couldn't understand. Probably sorry or maybe stay quiet. Afterward, people crowded the food table. I stayed long enough to see one more nail hammer down. A young worker scanning badges to unlock after meeting folders. Mine blinked yellow, access blocked, not removed. They wanted me to feel it. Wanted the quiet embarrassment of being locked out of the very thing I helped build. Wanted me to realize in real time that the job was already over. They just hadn't filed the leaving papers yet. That night, Marcus poured me a glass of juice. We weren't together anymore. Hadn't been for months. But the muscle memory of old habits dies harder than it should. I accepted it, sat across from him in my own kitchen, and waited. He looked tired or maybe just guilty. Same mask, different label. "I didn't want it to happen like this," he said. "But the board, they wanted speed. You slow things down, Jamal," annoying smirk. "Questions aren't bad, but this is timing important. The money person window is tight. We needed to move." I sipped the juice. Tasted like watered-down betrayal. And faking my signature was moving. That made him flinch a little. Then he breathed out. "It wasn't faked. It was temporary placeholder. You can't placeholder a legally binding. Computer key, Marcus." He swirled his juice, avoiding looking at me now. It's just work, Jamal, don't take it personally. Just work. But, like when I stayed up 46 hours straight writing our audit response. Just work. Like when I rewrote your buying policy to stop us from getting kicked out for cheating. Just work. When I covered for your mistake on the government disclosure so your bonus wouldn't get taken back. Just work. He nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't yell. 'Cause I was done being the helper. Helpers don't rage. They connect. But now I was the dissolver. That night I opened my personal drive and started organizing. Not just papers, not just proof plan. I listed every point of failure in their submission path. Every rule dependent on my permission. 3 contacts at the Office of Government Buying. I made backups, locked copies, scheduled drafts. I didn't confront, I didn't cry. I prepared because they hadn't just boxed me out. They'd handed me the match and soaked the floor in gasoline. I waited until Saturday because that's when people get careless. It's when lawyers forget their second phone at work and bosses assume no one's watching. But I was watching. I'd become an expert in silence. The spaces between papers in the computer proof most of them didn't know existed. And I had one name in mind, someone I hadn't called in over a year. Diana Foster. She worked at the Office of Government Deal Review or after if you were in the know. We'd met at a Chicago rule meeting where she gave a talk titled Signatures That Save and Sink Deals. Most people left for lunch halfway through. I took notes, asked questions, bought her coffee afterward, stayed loosely connected, occasional emails. Holiday hope you're surviving checking season jokes. Now I needed more than jokes. I locked the message. Sent it through a personal fake name. Clean and work-like. Need clarity on a pretend situation. What happens if Rule 12b officer sign-off is missing at time of turning in? Asking as a private person, not for my workplace. Diana replied within 20 minutes. Rule 12b is required. If officer signature is absent, we notify both sides and start early breach review. If the turning in is knowingly filed incomplete, that triggers audit increase. Why? I didn't answer. Instead, I breathed out slowly, sat back in my chair, and started building a folder called Final Counteractions. It contained a scanned file of my work contract. Specifically the extra part naming me government rule officer counter signed by both the boss and money boss. A time-stamped #verified version of the buying paper with my name missing. Pictures of inside drive folders showing faked practice versions with approval placeholders. My computer key signature chain untouched and unused in the final filing. And saved message record showing Marcus saying Jamal slows things down. We're pushing through with or without him. A copy of Rule 12b highlighted in 3 colors. I printed everything, stored it in a waterproof folder, then copied the computer version across 3 secure cloud boxes, 1 USB stick, and a separate locked email practice with Diana's address in the to space but unsent. All the traps were set. Then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed. It was Marcus working late finishing the buying papers. Don't wait up. No greeting, no apology. Just the smug carelessness of a man who thought the race was over. Finish flag already waved, and that I was still at the starting line with a clipboard and a moral compass. I stared at his message for a moment. Not with rage, not even with sadness, just precision. Then I typed my reply. Perfect. The government checker will love seeing the missing signature mine. And I hit send. No emoji, no punctuation flourish. Just facts dressed in silence. I imagined his face when he read it. Maybe a wrinkled forehead, a pause, half smirk collapsing under the realization that something was wrong. And not just wrong but deadly. He wouldn't text back right away. He'd call Richard first, maybe lawyers. Maybe the outside helper he played golf with last season. He'd spin the wheels fast, like slamming the gas in reverse while the cliff edge crumbles. But it was too late. The signature they needed wasn't just missing. It was guarded. And the person guarding it had stopped playing nice. Subject line, missing signature, required Rule 12b. That's all it said. No body message, no introduction, no speech. Just the facts stacked like falling blocks inside a zipped folder labeled Compliance Gap Phoenix Deal. Inside it, the Most recent turned-in version of the buying agreement. My work contract dated and signed with government rule officer highlighted in yellow. A chain of drive records showing no changes or contact from lawyers. Screen recording of my computer code device dashboard. Clean and used, untouched. Rule 12B printed from the government compliance database marked. One line typed at the bottom of the cover page. Filed without my sign-off. Timeline attached. Move forward properly. I hit send at 6:13 in the morning. Then I made eggs, fed my cat, watered the one house plant I hadn't yet killed. At 8:42 in the morning, Richard, our slick, buzzword-munching boss, got a call that made him put down his protein drink and forget where his coffee was. The call didn't go through lawyers. Didn't pass through admin. It came straight from the Office of Government Deal Review. That's the thing about government checkers. They don't knock. They appear. Diana, ever the work person, didn't mention me by name when she called. She didn't need to. She simply stated that a valid officer sign-off appears to be missing from your turned-in buying agreement. Need explanation within 24 hours to avoid triggering increase per audit rules. Richard blinked. His assistant, poor thing, thought it was a joke. Then lawyers got included. They tried to delay. Tried to say, oh, it must have been a formatting mistake. We'll re-upload. But the checker already had the original files. The computer proof, the fake stamps, the absence of my digital signature, my work paperwork. The rule itself wasn't a formatting mistake. It was fraud. Meanwhile, I was on my porch with coffee of my own. Black, no sugar. Watching the sky turn from bruised pink to surgical blue. Peaceful, focused. I didn't refresh my email. I didn't check for read receipts. Justice isn't a firework. It's paperwork. By 10:03 in the morning, People Department sent a message to the boss team. Please pause all outside deal communications pending lawyer review. By 10:18 in the morning, new workers were seen running to the computer department with an urgent request to review all folder permissions for Project Phoenix. By 11:02 in the morning, the outside helper hired by the board left a voicemail on my office phone. Jamal, if you have time to connect, the team would really appreciate some insight into click. Too late. The filing wasn't just invalid. It was radioactive. Any further attempts to fix it would only confirm intent. And intent, in the eyes of a government audit board, is everything. Back at headquarters, Richard was now holding an emergency board call while lawyers scrambled to rewrite the story. Marcus, I imagined, was pacing in his glass office, staring at the message thread where I had up until 2 weeks ago been the only one correcting his government language with a red pen. He probably wondered how long I'd known, how long I'd been planning this, how many breadcrumbs I left behind, quiet, visible, time stamped like the clicks of a loaded gun. But here's the thing. I didn't pull the trigger. They handed me the weapon, loaded it, and left the safety off. All I did was write the report. The boardroom was booked under urgent strategy review. Translation. Nobody knew whether to call lawyers or call their mothers. By 8:57 in the morning, I'd already seen the schedule ping leaked in an inside screenshot forwarded to me by a young compliance worker from another floor. Subject line removed, but the people attending, boss, money boss, main lawyer, outside deal helper, chair of the board, no snacks listed. Not a good sign. I sat cross-legged on my couch, wearing a hoodie with a stain I stopped caring about 2 years ago, nursing my second cup of coffee like it was a front row ticket to the fallout. The morning news droned softly from my kitchen radio, but I didn't need it. I already knew what today's top story was downtown. Inside the glass-walled boardroom of Phoenix Tech headquarters, Richard, the boss, king of spin, slammed his hand on the table hard enough to rattle someone's tablet. Why wasn't this signed? He shouted. The question pointed like a knife, but still somehow stupid. Marcus, the money boss who'd been riding high off vapor and pride for weeks, looked like a dog that wandered into traffic. Pale, sweaty, blinking too much. He was never going to approve it, he muttered. Richard leaned in. So you just skipped him? You assumed. We had the practice version, Marcus said. It looked final. You thought, Richard hissed, face flushing purple, that skipping the one person with legal authority to validate Rule 12B was just a rounding error. Room went silent. Outside, someone's phone buzzed 3 times in a row. Probably another question from the checker. Then the lawyer spoke, and what he said stopped time. If he didn't sign, the turning in is invalid. It violates government filing rules. This triggers a government audit. Richard dropped his coffee. Literally, ceramic mug shattered against the polished concrete floor. Dark brown spreading across the industrial rug like a crime scene. No one picked it up. No one moved. Because the word audit doesn't just mean paperwork. Means court orders. Means frozen money. Means investors asking if your leadership is criminally careless or just criminal. It means headlines like "buying stopped over compliance breach" and inside messages that will end up as exhibits A through Z. Meanwhile, back in my living room, I took a slow sip and scrolled through my phone. Diana from After had replied, "Received. Confirmed. Thank you for your clarity and completeness. Formal notice sent to Phoenix per audit procedure 3.2c. You've done the right thing." I smiled at that. You've done the right thing. Didn't feel like revenge. It felt like course correction, like the truth finally getting oxygen after being buried alive under slide presentations and smug side comments. Across town, someone in lawyers suggested contacting the checker directly. "Maybe we can explain," they said. Explain what? That your signature plan involved fraud, and hoping I was too burned out to notice. Marcus, I imagined, was now texting me. Maybe some pale attempt at damage control. I didn't look. He didn't. This wasn't personal anymore. This was math. The math of missing initials. The math of zero compliance coverage. The math of one worker holding the detonator they thought was just another paper pusher pen. They didn't just cut me out. They cut out the keystone. Weight-bearing rule holding their entire dream together. Now it was collapsing in real time. And I wasn't in the rubble. I was in the sun. I submitted my quitting papers at 6 o'clock in the morning sharp. No subject line drama. No emotional goodbye. Message thread. Just a one-sentence email to People Department. Effective immediately. I quit my position as Director of Compliance at Phoenix Tech, attached a formal letter signed. Time-stamped, saved. Then I stood, stretched, poured my third and final cup of coffee like I just returned from war, and realized I never wanted to wear armor again. Because that's the thing about surviving fire. You don't rebuild the old house. You leave the ashes and start over with better walls. Before I logged off my computer, I did one more thing. I reached out to Gregory Stone. Gregory was the lead compliance checker from Henderson & Associates, special firm I'd personally checked and brought on 2 years ago to handle our Series B double-checking. He didn't work cheap, but his team was surgical. And more importantly, he respected one thing above all else: chain of authority. I didn't have to say much. Just forwarded him a file titled Filing Differences Government Authorization Chain Rule 12B. 10 minutes later he replied, "This constitutes a breach of assurance rules. Withdrawing our compliance endorsement effective immediately." I stared at the screen, let it sink in. That signature, Gregory's, was the last band-aid holding investor confidence together. His withdrawal meant the Series B was now radioactive. And like clockwork, the ripple started. By 10:17 in the morning, Sterling Venture Capital, a lead investor with $42 million committed to after-buying expansion, sent a formal notice suspending their funding commitment pending government investigation and compliance review. At 10:45, the first article dropped. Buying delayed by compliance breach. Sources say Phoenix turning in procedurally compromised. I didn't leak it, but I knew someone would. There's always a whistle on the floor when the wolves smell blood, and Phoenix was bleeding. They issued a 2-sentence inside statement by noon. "We are aware of the ongoing review and are cooperating fully. We remain committed to transparency." He didn't sound committed. He sounded like a man whose boat deposit just turned into a court appearance. As for Marcus, I left him one final note. I didn't text. I didn't call. I emailed from my personal account with a delivery receipt attached. Subject: live with a gap body. I protected this company for 5 years. I shielded it from audits, fines, and your own shortcuts. You used me until I was inconvenient. then try to erase me. But you forgot something. You can't erase the backbone. Now live with the gap. Jamal. I didn't wait for a reply. Didn't care if it bounced or if. He read it while crying into his overpriced espresso machine. 'Cause here's the quiet truth. No one prints in magazine profiles or founder stories. When the person holding the foundation walks away, the rest isn't a company. It's a collapse in waiting. And collapse doesn't negotiate. I powered down my machine, slid my badge into a drawer, and left the apartment. No destination, no plan. Just fresh air and the steady pulse of freedom beating behind my ribs. Back at Phoenix, they still had departments, but no leadership, no compliance sign-off. No trust, only gaps. The kind they created, the kind they thought didn't matter until it did. 1 week later, I met him at a quiet cafe tucked behind a law office and a flower shop that hadn't changed its window display since Valentine's Day. No fanfare, no group. Just a square table by the window, 2 black coffees, and a man in an expensive jacket with the look of someone who spent the last 7 days rethinking everything, introduced himself as Vincent Hall, partner. Strategic Deals Division, Meridian Capital. Meridian was the acquiring firm in the Phoenix buying. The ones who'd nearly inherited a compliance time bomb disguised as a term sheet. The ones who until 7 days ago thought they were walking into a clean, fast close. They weren't. And now they knew exactly why. He didn't waste time with small talk. Slid a tan folder across the table like it held a stop order. Instead, it held a job offer. Title: Chief Compliance Strategist, Meridian Capital. Go. Build the after-buying governance setup from scratch. Report directly to the executive board. Full control compensation. Let's just say it made 5 years of being underpaid at Phoenix feel like a bad joke told at my expense. I looked up, eyebrow raised. He smiled. Rather have the man who broke the buying help us build the next one. I didn't laugh, just nodded slowly. You don't think that's awkward? I asked, sipping my coffee. Awkward, he said, is inheriting a $200 million liability. Because someone thought they could outmaneuver government compliance. You didn't blow it up. You saved us from inheriting a fraud. That's not awkward. That's indispensable. Indispensable. It hit me harder than I expected. That word wasn't shouted. It wasn't part of a press release or work review. It was just said like fact. I took the folder, shook his hand, and left without promising anything. But I already knew what I was going to do. 3 weeks later, the boardroom looked different. Table, same ridiculous abstract art on the walls, but the energy different. This time, the seat at the head of the table didn't have someone else's nameplate. Had mine. No coffee spills, no lawyers whispering panic secret words, no Marcus. Just a dozen department heads waiting for direction. Respectfully, quietly. I looked around the room, the very room I'd once been boxed out of, talked over, and ghosted from. I straightened the folder in front of me. Let's begin with Rule 12B, said. This time we're going to do it right. Few people nodded. One even smiled. They knew the story. Everyone did by now. And yet no one dared to gossip. Because the man they thought was a speed bump, he became the road. The revenge wasn't about embarrassment. It wasn't about drama. There was no shouting, no slaps, no viral clips. It was quiet, planned, signed in ink. And best of all, it held. Because when your signature is the difference between expansion and government inquiry, they don't forget your name again, ever. Appreciate you sticking around, you wise old rebels. Smash that subscribe button or this legend might just cause another epic disaster.